So a really cool little YouTube video reached my attention this past week, and as soon as I saw it, I had to watch it over and over again numerous times, and I definitely had to make a point of talking about its subject in one of these podcast segments. The video features country music artist John Rich, John Rich from Big and Rich, formerly of Lone Star, which was actually something that I had to Google recently. I didn't realize that John Rich was in Lone Star until somebody mentioned that he was in Lone Star, and I Googled it, and suddenly I realized that for years the guy pounding the bass in the video for No News was John Rich. And the moment that this person mentioned it, it was like, I thought to myself, it's like that mental image came to mind, and I was like, oh my god, I didn't know that. And it very much is true for anybody out there who had ever forgotten this or not known this. John Rich was in Lone Star. Kind of an interesting little tidbit there. But of course, that's not really the only thing that he's talking about in this video. What he's actually talking about in this video is the way that, in his opinion, woke politics have infiltrated every tiny little corner of the entertainment industry. And while it didn't happen overnight or even quickly, in his opinion, it's also come to country music. And he says that he's of the opinion that a lot of the artists are basically almost being held hostage, by managers and publicists and, people of the such. And they're telling these artists, like, you can't express, if that's your opinion, you can't express it. You can't record this particular song because it says this thing, and if you do that, you're going to get canceled. And interestingly enough, it does seem like cancel culture has come to country music. At times, the backlash for some of these things are not entirely unjustified. I mean, one episode that kind of comes to mind was when Morgan Wallen was caught on video, using the N-word. His career took, a pretty big hit for quite a while, and there were people that doubted that he was ever going to come back. That in particular, there was definitely some cause there that, he definitely should have, done some penance for that. Having seen that video, I mean, it doesn't really matter if you're drunk, it's still stupid. Like, it's still stupid and it's still wrong. Don't do it, even if you're drunk. It doesn't matter. But as much as anything else, this video actually got me thinking about Aaron Tippin. And so Aaron Tippin recorded this song in the 90s when he was in the heyday of his career. And the song was called You've Got to Stand for Something. And basically the chorus was, you've got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. You've got to be your own man, not a puppet on a string. And if you've ever seen him perform it live, and I did a few summers ago, must have been in 2019. He came to Lloydminster as part of this big tour with Colin Ray. There was somebody else on that bill, and for the life of me, I can't remember who it was. But he came out, he performed this song, and basically he actually goes out to the tip of the stage, and he kind of leans over the crowd, and he shakes his finger at you the whole time, and he's giving you this lecture. He's like, you've got to stand for something, or you'll fall for anything. Got to be your own man, not a puppet on a string. And he's really kind of stern and serious when he plays this song, which is funny because when you watch the rest of his show, he's actually a more fun guy to watch than that. But you wouldn't get the sense of it from songs like that. He kind of feels like he's your dad and he's mad at you because you effed something up. So he's giving you this lecture, and because you've paid money for it, you're supposed to sit there and enjoy it. But going back to John Rich and what he had to say, and I guess maybe I do see it a little bit. I don't know if I see it as much as he does. And he's going to see it so much more than me because he's actually in the industry. But it almost seems like, there are a lot of people in the industry that are afraid to stand for the things that, they would otherwise stand for. And yeah, I think that if they were to record a lot of the songs that they used to record, if they were to record them today, you could never have a career, let alone get them on the radio. I mean, imagine if Okie from Muskogee was not a song that was recorded in like the 70s. Like, I'm pretty sure they recorded that in the 70s. Might have been in the late 60s. Imagine if they were to release that in the middle of, say, the George Floyd riots. It absolutely would not fly. It definitely wouldn't fly anywhere outside of like, outside of like at the South, and even there are places in the South where it wouldn't fly. Imagine a song like "The Fightin' Side of Me." Imagine if you were to try to even try to play that on the radio today. Like, I bet you that's a song that probably doesn't get a lot of play on the radio anymore. When you're stepping on this country, you're walking on the fighting side of me. There are places where that could almost be like its own little riot. And of course, it's not just in country music either. It's in all sorts of different genres of music now. I mean, I was listening to a podcast a few months ago. It must have been all the way back in July. And on this podcast, Clayton Bellamy of the Roadhammers was kind of talking about like the death of the rock star. It's almost a cliched topic, but I mean, it does seem like it's true. Like, do we have like an actual Axl Rose? Can you think of like an actual new rock star anytime over the last 10 years that could actually make make people angry for something other than cheating on his wife, Adam Levine? And while for all of his merits and all of the good things about him, Clayton Bellamy is definitely a little bit too vanilla to really bring back the rock star, the way that he said that he wanted to. But yeah, it does seem like this this woke, politically correct culture, is definitely hurting the rest of the culture and making it a lot less interesting than it could be. There's a lot of conversations that aren't being had because too many people deem just the mere conversation to be too offensive, which definitely isn't good for understanding, the issue, whatever the issue, in question might happen to be. But as it pertains to country music in particular, this is one area where it does kind of seem like the infiltration of these politics is definitely, to the exact opposite of the interests of the audience. The kind of conversations that they would like to have and the kind of music that they would like to hear. I mean, I don't think that we have to go crazy and suddenly have like a country music industry, that's just suddenly pumping out like a whole bunch of David Allan Coe clones one after the other. Yeah, I don't think that there are too many people out there that would like to see something like that. But on the other hand, maybe a country music environment where you could never have a band like Confederate Railroad. Maybe that's not nearly as good as the one where you could. And so maybe John Rich is really onto something. Speaking of things that he's onto, he does have a new song out. It's called Progress. Apparently none of the record companies will put it out. So you should definitely go and check that out. It is an interesting song. Not my favorite song from him, but the message of it is heartfelt. He really believes it. And not only does he really believe it, but he's also not wrong, at least in my opinion.